So I think we'll get started now, and thank you very much for coming. I brought some props along. These were presents from Yuka when she arrived at University of Central Florida. And so this is what we received when Yuka arrived. And then before Yuka left, we have paper cranes, and I think right up to the last minute, it was a rainstorm at our house, and she was getting ready to get in the car and go to the airport, but she was still making paper cranes. And I even have a group of baby paper cranes that are all connected at one point, and they've survived going back and forth in the car to management council meetings and various other places, even all the way here to Charleston. So. Anyway, those are my props for today's presentation. But I'm Barbara Tierney. I'm head of research services at University of Central Florida.
And I'm Yuka Taniguchi from Japan Kobe University Library.
So, is your library thinking about an international librarian exchange? In a nutshell, international librarian exchanges not only increase participants' understanding of other cultures, but they also challenge the participants to look at their own culture from a new perspective. In the next 40 minutes, Yuka and I are going to share our lessons learned and our learning outcomes with you and encourage you to lean in and to go for it with international exchanges. So here, the picture of me in this slide shows me at the Red Gate at the entrance to the University of Tokyo. And it's one of Japan's most famous locations. And the day I walked through that gate, January in 2015, to give my Learning Commons presentation, is a career event that I will always cherish. And I think that for Yuka, on the day that she began her her 2-week internship at University of Central Florida Libraries, was a career event for her as well, that so far has led to 6 presentations for Yuka in Japan, post UCF. So how did all of this begin? And way back on October 15, 2015, I opened my email account early one morning and I found an exceedingly polite email. And this is what it said: "Please forgive me for contacting you without previous notice. I am sending this on behalf of the Kobe University Library Director. We are going to have a symposium about Learning Commons in January that will be hosted by the Japan Association of University National Libraries. We would be very grateful if you could come as guest speaker." And the aim of the symposium was to compare the concepts of Learning Commons between the United States and Japan, and to explore how Japan could organize the learning spaces in their libraries. So the expected audience would all be JANUL members and librarians from all over Japan. And the email ended, "We hope that this has not caused you any inconvenience. Waiting for your reply." So I was overwhelmed. And the first thing I did was to try to figure out, what is JANUL? The Japan Association of National University Libraries is very similar to our ARL, Association of Research Libraries. It's a membership of 92 national university libraries in Japan, and its mission is to support the advance of library functions and services by providing a forum to promote coordination and cooperation. And why did JANUL extend this invitation to me? In 2003, Japan's National University Corporation Law initiated several changes for the national university libraries. One of the biggest changes was to encourage national university libraries to begin focusing on service to their academic communities, in addition to building collections. So this change in the mission of Japan's national university libraries led to a need for staff training in various customer service and models of service delivery. And one service model that JANUL was very interested in was the Learning Commons model. Since most of my academic library career has been involved with Learning Commons, I was a likely guest speaker for JANUL's program. So why did UCF allow me to disappear for 2 weeks and go to Japan? And the reason for this, when I requested administrative leave from my library director, one of UCF's main goals is to promote international outreach for UCF programs. And what better way to do this than to send their head of research services to Japan to discuss UCF's Learning Commons model. So off I went. And one of the first things I had to learn was how best to prepare a presentation for a non-English audience. This was something completely new for me. JANUL said that 100 Japanese librarians would be attending this symposium, and these librarians only had a basic knowledge of English. And also there would be a translator working with me during the presentation and beforehand. So the very first thing that I learned was that everything takes longer than you would expect when you're preparing a presentation that needs to be translated. And I also learned that it was important to get started on my presentation immediately. I already felt behind. When I came to work that day, I felt like I was behind. And I needed to get ahead of the event. And also, I very quickly learned that it was very important to prepare a couple of short documents as soon as possible, immediately, really, and to send these short documents ahead of time to JANUL at the University of Tokyo so that they could translate the documents and put them on their website. They do promotion and marketing just like we do here in the States. So my short documents, I thought real hard what would be a fast short document to come up with that would be easy to go back and forth. And I prepared a LibGuide immediately. And the LibGuide had color photos of outstanding North American Learning Commons. It had a detailed outline of the long presentation that I planned on giving. And it had a bibliography of the very latest books and journal articles on Learning Commons. And the reason for a LibGuide as a short document was that it would be quick and easy to create. It would be available 24/7 anywhere in the world. And I could easily update it from my office at UCF. And as soon as I created my English language LibGuide, I gave the URL to my counterpart in Tokyo, and I asked if they would translate the LibGuide and send me back the translations for every page so that I could go in and do English on one side and Japanese on the other. So that was the first document. Then I got busy and I did a quick handout. And again, I sent it to JANUL, and they posted it on their website. And they did a translation of that as well. So we had an English language or a Japanese translation of my handout. And then finally, I got busy on my long document. And again, I had to think about the accessibility of this document so that I could work on it from my end and they could work on it from their end for translating it. So I did a Dropbox account and I got my 100-slide presentation ready, put it in the Dropbox, and it went off to their translators so that they could get busy looking at my script and translating that ahead of time. Okay, and so here, these are just a couple pictures. Here I am, my big day at University of Tokyo, meeting with my co-presenters. Here I am, shakingly at the podium at University of Tokyo. And then I didn't even realize that this part would happen, but then I was part of a panel program, and you can see my name there. Everybody else is in Japanese characters, but there I was. And so I participated in a panel discussion. And then from there, I went on to Kobe University, and I gave 2 presentations there. One on the Learning Commons model in North Carolina, or in North America, and then one on Subject Librarians model. And also, I think it's important to take presents with you. So I had taken just little boxes full of seashells from Daytona Beach. So that was my contribution there. And then what I saw when I visited Japan. Well, the Japanese university system is a mixture of national universities, local public universities, and private universities. And some of the differences between American and Japanese academic libraries surprised me. So I thought I'd share them with you. One thing, it's very common for Japanese libraries to have a generalist staff who share in covering many different services for the library. So the librarians there not only do reference, but they go through a cycle, a 3-year cycle. And after 3 years, they go on and they learn about circulation services. They do cataloging services after 3 years. They do digitization services and so on. Although reference services are offered in most Japanese university libraries, most of them do not have separate reference departments or separate reference staff or separate reference desks. Reference inquiries usually are handled by generalist staff at the circulation desk. And most do not have subject librarian models in place. The library director of an academic library is usually not a librarian. Instead, the library director usually is a senior academic personage at the institution who holds various important positions within the university. And they have a person in their administration, the deputy director, who manages the day-to-day operations of the library and manages the staff. The majority of library staff in the Japanese academic libraries are university graduates, but only about 50% of them hold a librarian certification. Emphasis is placed on in-house training, and staff move from department to department every 3 years. Most Japanese libraries do not have student support services such as writing or tutoring support in the library, and most do not have any kind of satellite offices in the library to provide services such as that. Budget cuts and reduced staffing have led to greater use of outsourcing in Japanese libraries. And then finally, consortia purchasing is not as prevalent in Japan as it is here in the States. Okay, and this is a picture of the most prestigious library in Japan, University of Tokyo Main Library. And right now they're undergoing a huge new library project to modernize and improve services and facilities. So actually right in front of the library is being constructed beneath the front entrance, a brand new library, and it's underground. It's constructed beneath the front entrance to the general library, and the new library will have an automated storage retrieval system that can hold 3 million volumes, and so it'll free up space for new acquisitions in the main library. And they'll have a creative bazaar on the lowest floor of the library, and that will be used for presentations and seminars and collaborative knowledge creation. One of the private universities in Japan, and this is Doshisha
Yes.
University, has some of the first learning commons in Japan. So these are pictures from that university's learning commons. This is their presentation courtyard, an example of one of their electronic classrooms, one of their group study rooms, one of their info diners. When I went on to Kobe University, this is a learning commons workstation there. Some more pictures of Kobe. And then my final day at Kobe, we had a farewell dinner, and that's when I learned about the dangers of telling people that you're a vegetarian. And I didn't want them to go to any trouble with me. I'm a finicky eater, and I didn't want to cause any trouble, so I said I was a vegetarian. And I was treated so kindly and with so much honor that when they had the farewell dinner for me, they made everybody be a vegetarian that evening. So we had a multi-course vegetarian banquet. And so anyway, this is after the banquet. During the banquet, they seated me at a table with all the young librarians, and all the young librarians practiced their English on me. And I tried to answer as best I could. They asked lots of questions about the United States. And at the very end, one of their main administrators said, why don't we cement our friendship by having one of our young librarians come visit you at UCF? Would your director allow that? So I said, I had a lot of sake, and I said, yes, I think this would work. And then as soon as I went back, we started corresponding about this. And Kobe University selected their best and brightest librarian, Yuka, and they asked Yuka to go ahead and to write a grant proposal for a travel grant, and it went to JANUL, the Japan Association of National University Libraries, and she asked if she could come and study at UCF libraries for 2 weeks. And I asked my library director if that would be possible, and what he said was, Barbara, this may be more complicated than you think, but he said for me to contact our UCF global office and to hook myself up with an immigration advisor and to get busy on it. So I did that, and what I found out was that it was very doable, but it was a little bit more complicated than I thought. There was quite a bit of paperwork, a few complexities. One thing that I had to, right away, I had to start working on an online form, and I had to request from Yuka that she send me an English language certification and a medical insurance statement, financial assurance statements, what her mission was going to be, photocopies of her passport, and all of these documents I needed to put in as inserts to a large document that I was working on that would secure her DS 2019 form. So that was a form that needed to be completed and vetted by UCF, and as soon as they completed that, and it took us about a month and a half to get through that form, then we FedExed this whole package off to Yuka, and on her end, as soon as she received it, she had to go to the closest US embassy to Kobe and arrange with them for her J1 visa, which is a short-term scholar visa to study in the United States. So when all this was accomplished, Yuka emailed me back and said, Barbara, I've got my visa, I have my tickets, I'm coming September 17th to September 30th. So everything was set. It was a piece of cake. All I had to do was make her schedule and find an office space for her. So I didn't think anything could go wrong. However, on September 10th, Hurricane Irma hit Florida, and then lots of things went wrong. They closed the airport at Orlando. University of Central Florida closed for 1 week. The National Guard was centered at UCF. Just a lot of little hiccups that we weren't quite expecting. But nonetheless, We got through it all. We went through a lot of emails back and forth, and Yuka's trip was a go. The only other hiccup we had was the night that Yuka was traveling, she discovered there was one tiny piece of her paperwork that was missing. And she discovered it in Tokyo. And by the time she got to Dallas, she probably had thought a lot about it and was kind of worried. And sure enough, she was detained in Dallas. And I got a phone call from the immigration officer in Dallas, and they said that there was one piece missing, and they had Yuka in a little office. And so I got on the phone, and I talked to them for a while, and I told them that we had a hurricane at UCF, and we vouched for Yuka, and could she please come? And they let her go through. And so that was, Yuka arrived, and she brought these amazing gifts with her. When Yuka arrived, I gave her, I think it was a 3-page agenda of what she could do at UCF. And she had a meeting with every one of our subject librarians where they would take her around and show her what they did. She had a meeting with every department head where she learned what the department did and saw what the operation was. She came to meetings with me for a couple of weeks. She came to management council meetings, reference meetings. Here we have her at the reference desk, and she said actually this was the most fun. She worked with our engineering librarian at the reference desk, and she actually got a Japanese language question while she was at the desk, and she had some reference work to do while she was there. And she gave a presentation about Japanese academic libraries to our staff. And she went to visit the College of Medicine library, and there's Yuka in the back. And we had a farewell luncheon at a wonderful Thai restaurant in Winter Park. And she left me some wonderful memories. So that's my part, and I've gone over my time. So now Yuka. Lessons learned.
Thank you.
Oh, you want to stream? It's easier.
Sorry. I am Yuka Taniguchi, working at Kobe University Library, Japan. It will be appreciated if you listen to my lessons learned at UCF. I am going to talk in question and answer format. The first question, what did JANUL wish for you to accomplish by your visit to UCF of University of Central Florida Libraries? JANUL supported me for mainly 2 reasons. First, outreach services in UCF libraries were refreshing for them. It is because this phrase, outreach services, shows only public library services in Japan. Japanese university libraries tend to be isolated from academic departments and other organizations in university. Librarians have difficulty in going outside library and getting along with academic faculty, administrative staff, and students. Second, they were interested in the way subject librarians are trained. Japanese librarians have worried about the lack of their professional knowledge and skills, as Barbara explained. But this still hasn't reached a basic resolution. The second question, do you think that your foreign exchange visit to UCF was valuable to your professional self-development? If so, in what way? It was one of the most valuable experiences for me. Before my departure, I learned a lot about academic libraries and subject librarians in the USA. I had to study also about Japanese academic libraries in order to make my presentation about Japanese academic libraries. In the UCF libraries, all I learned and experienced were refreshing not only for me, but also for lots of Japanese librarians. I enriched my understanding by explaining what I learned to them. The next, what do you think are the most important things that you learned during your visit to UCF? There are lots of differences between Japan and the USA, but librarians are struggling with similar issues and working towards the same goal, user success. Hence, Japanese librarians have to make an effort as much or more than colleagues in the USA. Subject librarians are often idealized in Japan. It means that Japanese librarians tend to be unconfident in their skills and services. Indeed, many of us don't have master's degree and faculty position, but it is not an excuse. And what do you think were the most valuable activities or experiences that you had at UCF? It was a training on reference counter. I was able to observe library users there. Students talked to librarians and made questions without any sense of hesitation. Academic faculties are also relying on librarians. Users are hungry for knowledge, and librarians are enough equipped to satisfy them. Are there any particular things that you learned about UCF that surprised you? These are 5 things, mainly. All of them are rare or surprising to Japanese. What users need should be central, instead of what librarians can provide. Subject librarians are in charge of various subjects, even if they don't have academic background of the area. Librarians have similar concerns and troubles in the USA and Japan. One of UCF librarians told me they may be easily forgotten if they don't reach out. Other librarians were worried about their budget. Library services are not always strictly related to library materials. Popcorn hours, therapy dogs, chess sets are provided and welcomed. It was so surprising for me and other Japanese librarians. The topic of money is not avoided. Librarians think students must be generously supported in return for tuition, and they do not hesitate to talk about librarians' salary. And next, what were the main points you made to the Japanese librarians during each of your post-UCF presentations or publications? Librarian staff training overseas study report was first. Main point was overview of my experience. The next, faculty development or staff development seminar, teaching methods reform supported by UCF libraries through case studies at Toyama University and North America. Main points were relationship and cooperation with academic faculty. And third, librarian staff training, study on the cooperation between university libraries and other organizations, referring to the case of United States. Main points were relationship and cooperation with other organizations in UCF. And 65th Journal General Assembly, survey on outreach service in university libraries in North America. Report of JANUL overseas training project. Main points were ROI, return on investment of library as evaluation criteria. And the article, the report of recent progress of outreach services in American university libraries, active programs by subject librarians, published in Journal of College University Libraries. The main point was the way Japanese librarians reach out. The last, the NII, National Institute of Informatics Short-Term Training Program, University Library, seen from overseas training experience. Main points were the process and preparation for my visit. And the next question, do you think that any of your presentations or publications on what you learned at UCF have led to changes in how general libraries are conducting their services models, projects, activities? Lots of Japanese librarians were interested in my message. Japanese librarians should learn about outside library and reach out. Some of them consider changing their services. At Kobe University Libraries, I started to help making online materials and translated them in English. It is because I knew that online resources enable small number of librarians to support a multitude of users. And the last question, what are your lessons learned about a foreign exchange experience? The lessons learned were, a chance will come by professing what I am interested in. I was always saying that I am interested in subject librarians and librarians' specific skills or knowledge. So the chance has come to me. And the next, reaching out is not as difficult as we, Japanese librarians, thought. And we can fill in our lack of skills by learning. The last is J1 exchange visitor must bring not only visa, but also DS 2019. I thought that DS 2019 is only for necessary to get a J1 visa. I didn't know that DS 2019 is needed to enter the USA. It was the most important point of lessons learned. That is all on my part. Thank you for listening.
So, we just wondered if you had any questions at all. You know, I have to say, it was more complicated than I thought it would be. And I think my library director was right when he said, Barbara, this could be very complicated. But I learned a real lesson from this whole thing. And as I look back at it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think every step of it has been fun and exciting for me. And we still, as Yuka has been doing so many presentations in Japan, every once in a while I would get an email from Yuka with questions, and it would make me think, and I would stop everything and answer, but I would think about all my answers too, because, it made me look at what we were doing at UCF in a different way. And when I had to explain why we were doing it a certain way to Yuka, it made me think, that I maybe we need to think this through a little bit more. So I wondered if you have any questions about our exchange, or if you're thinking about doing an exchange and you want some encouragement. Yes, sir.
Hi, Ray Punt from Cal State. I just have a question about international students, whether your universities have exchanges in terms of that level, and whether you've thought about collaborating to support the students from UCF who go to Kobe or vice versa.
Well, that's a very good suggestion, and I don't think that our library has gone that far, in trying to set up, a regular exchange back and forth between Kobe and UCF. I think right now, it seems to me when I talk to the UCF Global office at our university, that we're kind of a shaky time right now with international exchanges. And things seem to be changing month to month, and so I don't know exactly what the answer is. I would love to have a regular exchange, something that would be formalized. I think it would be a lot of fun and also extremely valuable and interesting if more of our librarians went to other countries, for 2 weeks or maybe longer, and came back with new ideas. But right now, we don't have anything like that in place, and I don't know that we're pursuing that.
Sorry, I guess I meant to say students who study abroad. If you're aware of UCF students studying abroad in Japan, whether they can make that connection.
Okay, I have my bosses here, and I
yeah.
figured, are you aware of anything like that, Penny?
Hey, Ray.
See you.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think it's a great question, and I don't think that we have anything formally set up that way. What we have done from the library perspective is create engagement librarians that complement the subject librarians into the discipline. And those engagement librarians reach out kind of horizontally instead of doing the deep dive into the departments. And one of our target priority populations are international students who come here. But that reverse going, so we reach out to them, make sure they get acclimated to the library, talk about, their needs and differences in libraries between where they came from and here. But I think that reciprocal thing we haven't really looked at. I think it's a great question.
Thank you.
Yes?
Okay, so we heard about difficulties. What were the difficulties of you going to Japan?
Well, part of it is you want to make sure that if your presentation is a certain day, that you get there a couple of days ahead of time, because I found a real jet lag problem. I usually think I can jump up and I can, I'm ready to go. But boy, it took me a long time to get out of Japanese time.
How about the actual travel? Like other forms and everything else, if you have any problem?
No, on my end, I didn't need anything. The only thing were tax documents, and because they took care of my hotel and my travel while I was there, that engendered a bunch of tax papers that I needed to fill out for U.S. taxation. And also when I got there was a lot of paperwork involved, more than I would have thought. I think that was the main thing. But I was able to, the good part was I added another week and I was able to travel around Japan, and that was wonderful. If I had to pick any country in the world that I would like to go back to and spend a lot of time, it would be Japan. It's very beautiful and very interesting.
Robert, I came in just a little bit late. I don't know if you covered that, but how did the representatives from JANUL know about you? Or how and why did they approach you?
Well, that's an interesting question, and we have institutional repository at UCF, and we have our metadata on there. And my lot in life, I've been involved with Learning Commons since 1999 at UNC Charlotte, and so by participating in the UCF institutional repository and also ResearchGate and academia.edu. I had my profile there, and I think when they were Googling maybe Information Commons librarians, my name came up because I'm part of those 3 different documents. And I was very glad for that, that my name rose to the top there because of that, possibly. Yes?
While you were visiting libraries in Japan, was there a particular practice or service offer that you saw that was new to you and you thought, man, I need to bring this back and we should do something like this too, something that was new and different for your experience?
Well, I think one of the things I noticed was, just with how much respect all the librarians treat each other and the respect that they give to their patrons. So I think that was something that I noticed quite a bit. Also, the students, there seems to be a different relationship between the students who come into the libraries that I visited, like at Kobe and the University of Tokyo. Maybe the students are a little bit more formal with the librarians, and I'm used to, at UCF it's very, very informal, and I'm used to people literally skateboarding up to the desk and handing me their cell phone with their assignment on it, and saying this is what I need, when they have their earphones on. So that was just maybe the relationships between the students and the faculty with each other. Yes?
Are there things that maybe you found interesting or you'd like to implement that maybe wouldn't work because of cultural differences like that?
Let's see. I think it was so easy having Yuka come, that I was a little bit worried. I thought that maybe it would be difficult on our end, but honestly, it might just be Yuka was so easygoing. I think an exchange, once you get through all that paperwork, I think that we were more alike than different. And I think that Yuka is just as concerned about patrons taking away what they came into the library to get, user services, and making patrons central to our services, as we are at ECF. So I think that we both agreed that we were more alike than different. And I've been thinking a lot about outreach since it's so important to Yuka. I've been looking at our outreach at UCF, and actually this afternoon in the evening, Linda Colding and I are doing a poster session on outreach services. I'm talking about UCF, of course, and Linda will be talking about Florida Gulf Coast University. So.
I have a question for both of you, and each of you, what were your favorite parts of the exchange?
Favorite part of the exchange?
There's no right or wrong answer.
I experienced the different members and different plays and different users. So I had to change my common sense or daily thinking or prejudice by my exchange. It was so refreshing for me.
So it was lots of new learning and challenging old original perceptions. So it was looking at something in a new way.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, that is neat. Thank you.
And I guess I'm so astonished by how Yuka can translate so quickly.
I
mean,
know.
even this morning, when we were sitting in sessions, and I'm listening to an English language session, and I'm challenged. It's going so fast, you know, people are trying to cram so much into a session, and Yuka is translating everything from English, you know, well, she's translating everything, and we're on the same page. So I guess I'm humbled by Yuka's mastery of English and Japanese and being able to juxtapose questions. Also, I was amazed at that. You know, I don't think you have that many skateboards on campus at Kobe. They're kind of mountainous there. And how she was able to instinctively keep from being run over when she was walking around UCF's campus, because we have skateboards and bicycles zipping by. And I find it challenging, but Yuka fit right in. She knew to walk to one side and never deviate her course while, you know, coming from the parking lot to the library. So we had a lot of fun. So I hope that if you're thinking about an exchange, you won't let my remarks about paperwork and complexities hold you back, because it absolutely is worth, you know, it's worth filling out that documentation and going through the process. It really is. Well, thank you so much for attending today. And if you have any questions you want to ask afterwards, please come up. And there's an attendance sheet at the back. And if you want to give me your email address back there, we'll send you further things, you know, after we get home from the conference.
Oh,
So thank you so much for coming.